What's up, boys? Welcome to the first ever episode of our podcast. We don't have a name right now, but we're gonna pick one up along the way. We got the Pats unis on. Today we're gonna be breaking down the NFL playoffs, the matchups. Um, so let's just jump right into the first one. The Colts and Bills. Copell, you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. So Bills and Colts first game. I'm pumped. As a Pats fan, seeing the Bills win the AFC East sucks. It hurts. But the thing is, I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I'm a big Bills fan. Sean McDermott. I think he's done a great job in Buffalo and all that. And I think Josh Allen's coming along very nicely. I think that you can put him in the top 3 or 4 in the MVP race this year. I think he's tied down there in the third spot, but he's had a really good season nonetheless. And I think Stephon Diggs was a great addition. You get him. You have
Yeah.
Cole Beasley in the
Diggs,
slot.
100%. Cole Beasley has stepped up huge for this team. He's been that slot guy, taking some of the reps away from Diggs because most teams are going to try and double team him every chance they get. But Josh Allen, they've talked about how much he's worked on, his throwing arm and stepping up in the pocket. And we've seen a huge transformation for him. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I had this defense in fantasy for a couple of my leagues, and they definitely did their job, especially in this championship week. I mean, this team, they just look like they're having fun out there. We saw them in Denver a couple of weeks ago, a pick six for Jerry Hughes, Isaiah McKenzie, the punt return this past weekend. So they just look like they're having fun out there. They're having a great season. This is a team that really can make a statement here and really has a shot at winning the Super Bowl because I feel like they're one of the most complete teams in this playoffs.
I
Let's
would,
look at the other side of the ball now, though. Or do you have any other thoughts on that?
yeah, no, I was just gonna say I definitely agree with all that. I think the Bills definitely are a team that is gonna make a statement in the playoffs, like you said. I think last year Buffalo was more of a defensive team, and a lot of people talked about how good their defense was. But I think it's kind of flipped around this year. I think their defense is really good. I think that their offense is even better. I think they have an offensive powerhouse this year with what their offensive coordinator Brian DeBall's had. I think he's been a great piece of mentorship and leadership towards Josh Allen because we're not even seeing Josh Allen run it every time anymore. He's actually throwing the football a lot. He's using that arm strength that he has. But he's
Exactly. He is
also
a
that
cannon for
he
number
also
two.
he also has, but he's that type of quarterback where I'm not a big fan of how the quarterbacks that just run it a lot, like Lamar Jackson. He's always running it. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And Cam Newton, he's more of a runner. People don't see him as a thrower, but I like these quarterbacks like Mahomes, Josh Allen, that they have the legs, but they stay in the pocket, they throw the football, and when they need to, then they run. So I think that is the definition of a dual threat. He's not always running the ball. He's sitting in the pocket, throwing it, and then if he has to, he has that option to run. And I think that the Bills' offense is really good. You got great receivers. John Brown's back. I mean, now you have Diggs, Brown, and Cole Beasley, and you have Davis and McKenzie back.
Yeah,
And you
just
have
a complete team and a team that just has fun playing the game too. You're always seeing them. This is one of the teams, I know Cam Newton and the Patriots aren't in the playoffs, but you'll see Cam Newton smiling every single game, no matter how it's going. But this team, they just look like they're having fun. They've been grinding, this team years ago when the Bengals you know, beat the Ravens, I believe it was, sent them to the playoffs. Obviously, it didn't work out for the Bills, but they're fired up for this season. They earned it, dominating the AFC East. Not even close. But now let's look at the Colts side of the ball. They've got Phil the Thrill Rivers tossing the pigskin around. He's had a pretty good season, would you say?
I would say so. I think Philip Rivers has had a pretty decent year. I think coming off of a Chargers season where he didn't even make the playoffs, and I mean, there's conversation with this guy being in the Hall of Fame, whether he's going to make it or not. I think that he can make a statement this year, depending on what he does. He's on a brand new team. He's always played for the Chargers. I believe, right? He's always been on the Chargers,
Yeah, yeah, he
and
has.
and and he goes to a different system with Frank Reich in Indianapolis, And I think Indianapolis is a great spot for him because I think this year a very underrated part of this team is the defense. You look at the defense
Yeah.
and what
Oh,
they've done,
absolutely. I think
a
the
bunch
defense
of
has carried them.
their defense has
I
been really
really
good.
do.
Philip Rivers, he's on the older side. He doesn't have the arm that he used to have, I don't think, in my opinion, but he's still that game manager that can win you games, which I think is going to be important for the Colts. He brings that experience to the table, and he has these weapons that people aren't realizing. Okay, you guys have to understand this receiving tandem. Okay, T.Y. Hilton, we know who he is. This guy's a beast. And at the second half of the year, he put it on. He turned the Jets on. He gets them. He helps them make it, put in the playoff race. They get in. T.Y. Hilton's had a great second half of the year. You look at the next guy, Michael Pittman Jr., right? This guy, the
Mhm.
rookie, I mean, he's making a statement. All right. This guy is a threat. And then Zach Pascal, again, no one really cares for him. In the past couple of games, he's stepping up and making plays. So you got three receivers here that is
Just the
spectacular.
young receivers, they're playing like they're older. I love that you've got T.Y. Hilton and you've got Philip Rivers because the veteran presence is huge, especially in the playoffs. Everyone says it's a new season. Well, it's a new season. T.Y.'s been here before. Rivers has been here before. And, I think the veteran presence is going to help them, especially a lot against the Bills. Bills have a very young team on offense. Josh Allen, of course, but I think that this veteran presence of the Colts, and they have a lot of guys on defense that have also, made the playoffs before, and I think that could help them win this game. It is going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, even though we have two really good defenses, two teams that can score when they have to. Um, I'm just looking over at these games, and the Colts, they really, besides the low scoring close games, every game they've had at least over 25 points or over 20 points. I mean, this is a team that puts up points. The Bills average the highest amount of points in the NFL per game. So I think this game is definitely going to be a shootout. It's going to be a close one.
I think it could be a shootout as well. And you take a look, like you said, two really good defenses. And another thing that people have to understand is the Colts defense puts up points for this team. This Colts defense gets fumble returns, pick sixes. They get turnovers when they need it. They get stops when they need it. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I said that a team that I think could make a statement is the Colts because of their defense. Because historically, you look at teams that make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, and all of them have a great defense. I don't care what you say. You need a good defense to win the Super Bowl, and I think the Colts have it, and I think the Bills have it. But one other thing that we're going to talk about the Colts, this backfield, and we didn't talk about the Bills. The Bills have Singletary and they have Zach Moss, and Zach Moss is coming along great. But I think you look at the Colts run game, Jonathan Taylor, he just rushed for 1,000 yards. He hit that mark yesterday.
He's
Not
a
only
rookie,
that,
right?
he's a rookie. Yeah, he got
Yeah,
drafted.
absolutely insane season out of him.
And
Great
then
season.
obviously the injury to Marlon Mack, but that doesn't even matter
Yeah.
because Naeem Hines is a great
Mm-hmm.
receiving back for this team. I mean, you have guys that you can use, and when you have 2 or 3 running backs that you can kind of use, plus you have this young receiver tandem with a veteran at quarterback, I think that it's a good team. They have a great offensive line led by Quentin Nelson, helps the run game out. So I think the offense is a bright spot for the Colts. And like you said, I think this game is going to be a shootout. You have 2 good defenses, but I think the offenses of both teams are going to kind of overpower the defense. I think you're going to see a high scoring game. If I had to make a prediction, I just think Buffalo is too much of like a powerhouse. The way I look at Buffalo is their offense is a powerhouse, and I never really use that word, but
They're
basically,
dominant. They are.
they have a dominant team. Their offense is
I'm
ridiculous. I mean,
for my prediction, I'm gonna agree with you there. I'm gonna take Buffalo in this one. Definitely offensively, I think that they're easily gonna be putting up points, and I think the Colts will hang with them for a bit, and it's probably gonna maybe be a 1-score game, maybe a 2-score game. But I think that I'm just looking at for the Colts. I mean, huge game against the Steelers. Probably could have punched their ticket in week 16. They had a lead 24-7, and then I think they got shut out in that second half and did not score any points against a Steelers team that, as strong as they were, starting off 11-0, really struggling. Philip Rivers has not, I'm sorry, Big Ben has not looked himself at all. and the Steelers finished 12-3, but boy, did they have to rally in that second half. And I know it was a home game, even with no fans. I feel like it is kind of an advantage, when you're playing on your own turf. And
Definitely.
the run game wasn't great. They got it going though. They had Jonathan Taylor rushed for 74 yards in that game, Hines for 44. But again, this is just a big game that the Colts really needed to close out, and they couldn't. And they probably could have had a better seed if they did. But they get it done at home against Jacksonville yesterday to punch their ticket. So I am going to take the Bills in this one,
Let's
but I
not
think it will
forget.
be a good game.
Let's not forget another thing about this game is Buffalo's home. Okay, New York just approved a minimum amount of fans, so they can have fans at this game. Bills Mafia, I mean, come on, some of the best fans in the world.
Oh, they're going to be fired up. Yeah.
Like we said, I mean, when you got, I think it was it against Denver when they won the AFC East? They came home on the plane and it was midnight, and there was literally like half
later than midnight.
People just standing out there rooting. So this is a fan base that cares, and I don't care what anyone says. Fans do matter in the playoffs. They do, and even though it's going to be minimal, I mean, these teams have played with basically none all year. So, I mean, this is going to be a step up for them. But I think, like we talked about, I think the Bills are just too offensively gifted, and the play calls. I really give credit to Brian DeBall, the offensive coordinator for Buffalo. He's really put Josh Allen in a great position and the rest of the offense in a great position. And not only that, Sean McDermott, he's a great coach for both sides of the ball. I think that Buffalo is just going to – I think they're going to win by a touchdown or two, like you said, maybe 10 points. But I think the Colts are going to hang with them a little bit. But if they really want to win this game, I think what the Colts have to do, they have to start off with the run game. They're going to have to run all over Buffalo to start, get the play action passes going, and you're going to have to keep it up in the second half if you want to hang with this Buffalo team, because this is a team that can just demolish you and really just put you down by literally scoring like 28 points in the first half if they want to. If they want to do it, they will. And if you're the Colts, you've got to make sure you hang with them, and you got to make sure that you stay going in the second half if you want to have a shot. I just think, I think if the Colts play a different team, it'd be a little bit closer, and I still think it's going to be a little close, but I think Buffalo is just too gifted for them to lose this game. I think Buffalo's going to win.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an example of who wants it more this game.
It is.
For sure. But yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo in this game. And on that note, let's move to the next game on Saturday, January 9th. We're going the NFC for this one. Rams taking on the Seahawks in Seattle, 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. So, Copell, let's break this one down. What do we got to start this one off?
So Rams and Seahawks. So Seahawks are going to be having home field advantage. They have the 3. So they're the 3 seed in the NFC, with the Rams being number 6 in the NFC. And we saw this past week, obviously, Goff wasn't playing. Cooper Kupp had COVID. Cam Akers, he has an injury. So let's take it that all these guys are going to be returning for this game. And to me, I'll tell you one thing about Seattle. To me, I've watched them over the course of the year. I think they have flipped. They're polar opposites from both sides for the halves of the season. So I'll explain. So the first half of the season, this team was an offensive powerhouse. I mean, they didn't even have a defense. Let's be honest. Their defense at the beginning of the season was probably the worst. They had like the worst passing defense. I mean, they couldn't stop the run. But then you flip it to the other side, and Russell Wilson was cooking. I mean, DK Metcalf's becoming a beast. We know that. Tyler Lockett, he's a top guy. I don't care what anyone says. And then you have these other guys. When you have a great quarterback like Russell Wilson, he can get these guys involved, like David Moore, obviously. Chris Carson was used in the passing game a lot. He was hurt, by the way, for a lot of the season. I know you had him in fantasy. I had him in fantasy. So, but Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator for Seattle, he's actually leaned on the running game a lot more since he's been hired. So I think that Chris Carson's going to be a big factor. But Russell Wilson, he can run the ball himself. He can throw it. He's got a great arm. We know that. He's good. But I'm going to say the second half of the season, this guy, Russell Wilson, he's looked a little suspect for me to really like put him at that MVP, because at the beginning of the year, we talked about MVP conversation for him. I think he dropped off a level or two the second half of the year. But let me say this. We know about Pete Carroll. We know about his greatness. We know about his past defenses that have been spectacular, and you think,
especially come playoff time.
playoff time, right?
This is a team that doesn't, get blown out. Whether, it's their defense that isn't playing well or their offense. Like you said, I think it was a great point that you made when you said that the offense, they started off the year great. They were getting wins. This team started off really strong, played great against Arizona, and then lost unlucky to a field goal in overtime. But this team has played really good offensively. The defense had some injuries to start the year, but I think that KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner, two of the game's best, did an outstanding job turning this defense around. And really just, this offense has not been good the past couple of weeks. They haven't scored more than 26 points the last 6 weeks of the season. And except against the Jets when they scored 40, which 40-3, you got to blow out the Jets. That's what they do. If you're a playoff team, that's what you're expecting to do at home. But I would like this team to start using their backfield more. Chris Carson, of course, is great, but I don't think that they've used him as much as they could. And I know that, for some games he was a little bit limited just because he was dealing with some injuries. I get that. But I do think that this team relies on the pass a little bit too much. And if they're not getting, DK Metcalf wide open up the middle or Lockett or Moore in the slot, I do think that this offense can struggle if they don't get the run game going. And also, I do like Carlos Hyde, that backup running back position. I think he's gotten, a lot of snaps, especially with Carson being out, but I would like him to get more. This Rams defense, it's a scary defense. We talk about Buffalo and the Colts, how good their defense is. This team has been right up there with them, if not better. This defense allows the fewest amount of points in the NFL, I believe, and their defense got them the win to get into the playoffs against the Cardinals yesterday. I know it was a couple of backup quarterbacks going at it, but this team has really not been great on offense, and they do have offensive weapons. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Higbee in that tight end position. So this team is definitely an offensive team that has the pieces. Hopefully Jared Goff can come back and he can stay healthy and really give them an opportunity here to make a run. But this defense, I think if this team goes anywhere, it's going to be because of this defense. And, next weekend when the Rams play the Seahawks, I think it's going to be a very defensive matchup, unlike the Bills and the Colts. And this game is going to be a close game with not too much scoring.
I agree with that. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Let me say a couple things about the Rams. So the Rams, all right, Sean McVay, he's a football mastermind. I think he's a great coach. This guy, the way he runs his football team, you see his plays, and it's really interesting. But let me say this: I think this team, they are a run-first team, which is going to be good. Okay, you got Cam Akers. This kid is a rookie. He's coming out, and I'm telling you, that game against the Patriots, we know how the Patriots aren't that great this year, but he made a statement. He had around 30 carries as a rookie. That was, if he wasn't hurt, he would be getting 20 plus carries a game, in my opinion. Okay, so I think you're going to get ready when the playoffs come around, get ready to see Cam Akers a lot. I think McVay's going to use him a lot, and he's going to make sure. Now, listen, they're going to run the ball a lot. You talk about blocking receivers like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. These guys can block as receivers, right? And you got a 2 tight end package. You got Higbee, like you talked about. You got Gerald Everett. You got these guys that really allow this running game to really work. You know what I mean? For this Rams team. And not only that, I think you're going to see a lot of running from Sean McVay against the Seahawks. I think he's going to just ground and pound it. And then you're going to see a lot of play action passes come out in the second half of the game. You're going to see a lot of that mismatches. You're going to see Robert Woods on jet sweeps. You're going to see different guys getting the ball. And when you get a backfield with Cam Akers, Brown, like Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, like these are good backup running backs that you can use, and they've been filling in for Cam Akers, and they've been doing just fine. So I think you have a great backfield depth. You got these great receivers. Josh Reynolds obviously is the third guy. You got a good offensive line that allows this run game to work, and if Jared Goff's healthy, he can make some plays. He's not. I wouldn't call him elite yet, but I think he's almost there when this elite conversation. I want to see him use Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods more. I want to see the play action passes come out because I think the Rams, if they can keep this clock moving, run the ball all over Seattle as much as they can, that opens up the play action passes. I think they can win this game if they keep it. But like you said, on the defensive side of the ball, let me tell you, DK Metcalf's a beast. And what are they going to have to do to shut him down? I mean, Jalen Ramsey's a top corner in the league. I don't care what anyone says. And I think that they're probably going to be throwing him on either Tyler Lockett or Metcalf. But my guess is Metcalf because this is a physical beast. His height,
It's going to be a physical game on both sides of the ball.
People are comparing this kid to Megatron. I mean, listen, Russell Wilson has weapons. But like you said, this Rams defense, McVay always has a great one. This team is scary defensively. Like this is a top defense in the league. And I think, like I said, defense wins ball games. And I think Seattle's defense has become a really good one. They've proven in the second half of the season that they can compete on defense. But I think, in my opinion, we just saw Seattle beat the Rams 2 weeks ago, right? 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes, 8-9.
Yeah. So low scoring game once again. But in my opinion, personally, I know this game is at Seattle, but I think the Rams have too much of a good defense to let this game slip out of their hands. And I also think that if they get Cooper Kupp back, if they get Cam Akers back, Jared Goff, his thumb isn't as bad. If we get these guys back, I think the Rams can make a statement. I think they can pull off an upset, and I think they can win this game in Seattle. I think, like you said, it's going to be a low-scoring game because of the defense. I think they just got to stop Russell Wilson's receivers because the way Russell Wilson's been playing is he needs his receivers to play. And I mean, as a quarterback, I mean, you need your receivers to play, but Russell Wilson, he hasn't had the best second half of the year. And I think the Rams have kind of turned it up the second half of the year because there was a point where we were talking about them winning the NFC West, and this NFC West is a powerhouse. You got San Fran coming off. I mean, if they didn't have injuries, they'd be in the playoffs, in my opinion. Seattle, the Rams, and then what team am I missing? And the Cardinals, who just missed. They lost the Rams. So I think, in my opinion, this is going to be a low-scoring game. I say the Rams take this game in Seattle, all because of the defense and the great run game and the run scheme made by Sean McVay and his coordinators over there.
I think one of the biggest keys to success for this game for both teams, you talk about both the defenses, how good Seattle's defense has overcame this season. I mean, how about, picking up Jamal Adams? I mean, there isn't really a better guy at his position in the league, especially this guy. He'll be playing out deep in the field, and then all of a sudden he'll just run right in, not even get blocked or run through a block and get right to the quarterback. And I think that, Wilson, Goff, they can both run if they have to, but I think that both these defenses, they're going to have to find a way to get to the quarterback. These teams have too many weapons on the offensive side of the ball to not be able to get to the quarterback. And I think that Aaron Donald, that defensive line, they're going to have to find a way to get to Wilson. And I think they will. I mean, this is one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. It's going to be two very good defenses going up against each other. The season series split 1-1 apiece. The Rams beat the Seahawks on November 15th, 2020, 23-16. And the Seahawks just beat the Rams 29 a couple of weeks ago on December 27th, 2020. So I'm going to go with a low-scoring game here, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. I just think that, this team, even though they didn't really finish out the season strong, I just think that this team, they turn it up in the playoffs. They're hungry. They've gotten defeated bad in the playoffs. To the Packers, to the Patriots. Everyone knows about that Super Bowl against New England. I think that Pete Carroll, really, he's been here, he'll say a million times, but I think that the Seahawks, they're going to be ready for this one. They've got a home game. I don't know if they're going to have fans or not, but I think that Russell Wilson, he's been here a bunch of times, and he's going to lead his team to victory over Jared Goff and that shaky offense there in LA.
Yeah, I think it could go either way, definitely. I mean, and let's not forget last year what DK Metcalf did to the Eagles in the playoffs as a rookie. So, I mean, this guy can turn it on in the playoffs. So we have no idea. But, like I said, you're taking the Seahawks. I'm taking the Rams. I think this one could swing either way. It's going to be a defensive game. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey, that's going to be a really fun matchup to watch there. But,
For sure.
Ramsey just locked up DeAndre Hopkins. I know that, Kyler Murray wasn't in the whole entire game in that game, but I mean, he did a great job covering DeAndre Hopkins. He wasn't really a factor in that game. But let's move to our third playoff game here. We have a Saturday night game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady, going up against Alex Smith and the Washington football team. This game, 8:15 Eastern time. So Copell, start us off here. This game could be lopsided, maybe not. We'll see. What do you got?
So this is a tough game, in my opinion, but, listen. So we're Patriots fans. We love Tom Brady. He's done great for us. We want him to succeed. He threw 40 passing touchdowns at the age of 43 this year. It just goes to show you, I don't want to hear that he's washed. Just look at the weapons that he has. Give him weapons, and he can do something, all right? He's still 43 years old. You can call him a game manager all you want. He's a good quarterback. He comes up in clutch moments. So here's what I'm going to say. They're on the road this game. Washington football team obviously winning the NFC East in a crazy Philadelphia game, because the Giants were rooting for the Eagles. So I'm going to be honest with you. If the Giants were to win the division and not the Patriots, the Buccaneers had to travel to the Giants, I think the Buccaneers would slaughter them. But I think I like Washington way more than the Giants this year. I think Ron Rivera, great addition, bringing him in. Okay. And I think we all know the strength of this team is the defense. Jack Del Rio has done a great job as defensive coordinator for this team. And, he works with Ron Rivera a lot. And we take a look, like Chase Young, this rookie, the number 2 overall pick, he's been working. He's a workhorse. He's been winning on that defensive line. He's been getting through offenses. He's been strip sacking quarterbacks, getting, fumble recoveries, hitting the quarterbacks, making plays on the run. And another guy, Montez Sweat, second-year player, also pass rusher. These guys coming off the edge, it's scary on this defense. You bring in a Super Bowl champion in Fuller, who's been really like a slot cornerback, but now you put him on the outside. You're locking him up you're putting him on your top receivers. I think that was a great addition. Ronald Darby comes over at cornerback. So this team is loaded with talent on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that this is why this team is making the playoffs. Okay, we all know Dwayne Haskins, disaster. I don't want to hear about him. He's gone. Alex Smith is a great guy. He's a great mentor. He's a great leader, but he is more of a game manager at this point. He's hurt. You can tell last night. He's making short passes, just 3rd and 5 throws, get that first down, move to 6, But on the offensive side of the ball, Pat can tell you I'm a big Terry McLaurin fan. I think he's a great receiver. I think you got to lean on him a lot. They don't really have many receivers outside of him. You have Sims Senior and then Sims, but then you have Logan Thomas at tight end, who's been a very
Unbelievable,
very good tight end. That
one of those hidden gems of the season,
that you don't really
who
understand.
really wasn't a factor at the beginning of the season. I think that's why Washington did kind of struggle. I think they would have broken this NFC East open if they could play a complete season. But if you look, they had that win against the Eagles to start out the year. But then from there, it was just downhill. They lost 5 games in a row, and it was not looking good at all for them. And then, their defense flipped the switch. And I think that another very good defense, this is the reason why this team is in the playoffs, because of their defense. We saw last night against Philly, they couldn't get anything. They lost to the Seahawks by 5 points, but, that was a battle the whole time. And I think that even though, they have guys like Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Sims, some good receivers that have been pretty solid for them. I think that this offense is just not enough when you look at the other side of the ball. When you look at Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, just absolutely ridiculous. And if that wasn't enough, you have Leonard Fournette, you have Ronald Jones. I mean, this team, this Buccaneers team just got a gift from God this year, getting all these players in. And they haven't been a good team. They haven't been a team that's really been in the mix. Jameis Winston, he wasn't a great quarterback. He threw touchdowns. He also threw interceptions. He didn't give this team enough of a chance to win. Tom Brady has done that and a whole lot more. I mean, if we didn't have a guy named Aaron Rodgers just doing his thing with Devontae Adams, Tom Brady, maybe MVP caliber. But this team also, Brady wasn't excellent all season. It took him a little bit to get used to his receivers. They lost to the Saints this year. So Brady lost a duel with Drew Brees. They had a huge win at home against the Packers. That Thursday night loss against the Bears by 1 point. Oh, Jesus. By 1 point. They really struggled on offense in that game. But I think that this Buccaneers offense, they've scored over 40 points to finish off the season in the last two games in Detroit and then at home to close out the season against the Falcons. I think this offense is just going to be too much for that Washington defense because they're just going to keep coming at him. And I don't think that Alex Smith is just going to be able to keep that offense on the field enough and give this defense a break. Tom Brady is a guy that there isn't anyone better than him at 2-minute drills, at anything, you name it. I mean, this guy is just Hall of Famer. And this Buccaneers team has too many weapons. The only thing that I think would slow this Buccaneers defense down is if that young offensive line isn't able to give Brady enough time with, like you said, Sweat, Chase Young. I mean, these guys are hungry every single play. You see it. Chase Young, this guy has made a very good push for Rookie of the Year, getting his team into the playoffs, which was unbelievable, even though that's a horrible, NFC East there. But I think the Buccaneers, they're going to take this one easy, and this one's going to be at least 2 scores for the Buccaneers. They're going to get an easy wild card win in Washington this weekend.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you just said about Tampa Bay. I think they're a great team. Brady, I mean, he's showing he's still got it. Like I said, you know what I mean. We just saw Mike Evans get hurt, so hopefully he's back for this game. But it doesn't matter because you got Chris Godwin, you got Antonio Brown, you got a great running game with Fournette and Ronald Jones. You know what I mean. Even Shady McCoy, so you got some veteranship there. Scotty Miller's been a great receiver. You got 2 great tight ends in Gronk and Cameron Brate, and did have 3 if OJ Howard never got hurt. So I think that you have a really good offensive powerhouse. Todd Bowles on the defensive side of Tampa Bay. He has a young defense that has performed well in certain games. You got loads of talent with Devin White. You got Ndamukong Suh in the defensive tackle spot. But then you got guys like Jason Pierre-Paul, like veterans like on the edge of this defense, and great safeties, great cornerbacks that are young and upcoming. So I think that Tampa Bay's defense is still growing a little bit, but I think that they have a solid base for what they want to do. So I think that when you really stack it up, I think that obviously, I think Washington has the better defense. I think Tampa Bay has the by far better offense. I mean, it's just a given. And like I said, I think defense wins ball games, but in this case, I really just don't see Washington competing on the offensive side of the ball with Tom Brady. And I'll give Bruce Arians a message. Let Brady do his thing. Don't be calling these deep shot passes for him, especially if you're down. Let him do his thing. He'll work his magic. He's at the point where he can call his own plays if he wants to because he has that credibility.
Absolutely.
He has that credibility. And
Even
I think
with the new team,
he's got Gronk. He's got guys that he played with him in New England. So I think if you're Bruce Arians, let Brady, if it comes down to it, let Brady kind of do his thing at the end, and I bet you he'll pull out. So I think that, in my opinion, I'm a big Washington guy. I think this could be a close game, but I think that they're just not going to be able to compete with Tampa Bay offensively. I think that Brady's going to come out with the win on the road, and it should be, to be honest, it should be a cakewalk for Brady. But this defense for Washington is scary. I mean, who knows? But I just think that there's no way Alex Smith keeps up with this offense.
I just want to make one more point about Tom Brady. I mean, this guy, you just listed every single, receiver he has on offense, and the fact that he's played with, Gronk in New England. This guy, yeah, he's won 6 Super Bowls. We all know about that. But if you actually look at the teams that he played with when he won these Super Bowls, I mean, these receivers are just some of them are just these teams are nowhere near this Buccaneers team on offense. I know he had some great receivers in the past, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman and him were a great connection, and Gronk, of course. But, part of the reason why I think, Brady's time was up was just because he didn't have an offense like this around him. And, the Patriots offensive line obviously was nothing special either. So he really didn't have much to work with. He got his 6 Super Bowls and now he's moving on to another opportunity. And he has a really good shot here to win a 7th Super Bowl. I mean, as much as it would hurt, as me being a Patriots fan, he has all the weapons on offense. And I think that, they're going to put points up every game. It's just going to be, can this defense, you know, hold on teams? I mean, I think they're going to have an easy game here in Washington, but, is this defense going to be able to make a couple of stands against, Drew Brees if he starts to heat up? Aaron Rodgers on the Packers, nobody's slowing him down. They just beat up on a Bears defense that has been, very good as well this season. I mean, is this team going to be able to hang with the big boys on the defensive side of the ball? We might not see this weekend, but in the future, how are they going to do? We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see if Washington can make a stand here against the Bucks. But I'm taking the Bucks easily here. They're going to dominate this game, and they're going to move on.
I agree.
So next matchup we're going back over the AFC. We got the Ravens and the Titans here. This one Sunday afternoon, 1:05 p.m. on the Eastern side. Titans hosting this game. Derrick Henry. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, this man is just a different breed. If you were watching the game, you saw this guy has ran for over 2,000 yards in a season. I mean, no matter who you are, no matter if, this guy was on the 2-13 Jets or this Titans team, I mean, that's a very good accomplishment. So congrats to him. But I'm sure that he knows that there's more work to do. And they got the Ravens here on Sunday, Copell. So what do you have to say about this?
So yeah, I definitely agree. I think that you can say whatever you want. Put Derrick Henry on any team, and he's automatically making this team better. I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs. Okay, who thought that the Titans were going to roll past Baltimore in the divisional round last year with Baltimore's team? You know what I mean? So I just,
And the season that Lamar Jackson was having too.
Right. Credit to Mike Vrabel. I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, he played for the Patriots. He's been a great coach on both sides of the ball. I think they've turned Ryan Tannehill into something that they can't call him a bust anymore. I mean, this guy's actually playing great. You know what I mean? And the one thing about so the way Tennessee's offense is designed is just basically running the ball, and then you got Tannehill in the play action, and you got guys like AJ Brown. He has become a star receiver. Whatever you want to say.
I mean, he made that the game-winning catch yesterday. Did you see that?
A perfect pass from Ryan
pass.
Tannehill.
And Tannehill, I think that the Titans have given him something that Miami never gave him. And
100%.
he's been an excellent fit here in Tennessee.
I agree.
And he's been very, very exciting to watch with yet again another powerhouse offense with these Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Titans, they're a good team on both sides of the ball. Think about the additions on the defensive side of the ball. They grabbed Desmond King from the Chargers. Great slot cornerback. So they have weapons on the defensive side of the ball. And the thing is, though, this team puts up points offensively, and you're gonna realize that. I think this is one of the most underrated matchups of the entire first round so far. You're looking at the Titans and the Ravens, 4 and 5, right? So Titans have home field advantage. We saw this last year on the other side where Baltimore had home field advantage. John Harbaugh, great coach. We know about him. We know about Baltimore's offense. They're just run, run, run. And when Lamar Jackson can fling it, he can fling it. You know what I mean? But this is a run team. We know it. You got J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram in the backfield. And then you got Lamar Jackson, who's a threat himself. And we all know that, running the ball. So in my opinion, though, Baltimore's defense hasn't played up to par, especially after the defense that they had last year. I think that they have turned it on to make the playoffs at the end of the season. But not only that, they have pieces missing on the offensive line. They lost Yanda. They lost, they have a couple injuries going on. So I think you need a good offensive line to run the ball. But I think they can still run the ball effectively. But here's my point. I don't know if the Ravens can win this game because I think that the Titans, Derrick Henry is just going to run all over this team. No team can stop Derrick Henry, to be honest. I mean, he's just going to run it over, and you have to realize that. And I think the play action passes are going to come right out of Tannehill. He's been on target, right? This guy, he's been making throws.
He's been throwing bombs too.
We're
not talking about like little
quarterback.
check down, like first down plays and then hand it off to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, he's been doing his fair share for sure. But Tannehill, he'll just huck it up and it's going to either Corey Davis or AJ Brown, and they're coming down with it and they're going to do a little touchdown dance in the end zone. That's what happens with this team. This team also scores just so many points, and that's what's going to carry them. I think they have a decent defense. I like their cornerbacks, especially against this Ravens matchup. I don't think that the Ravens have enough on the offensive side with Snead, Dez, and Andrews. But like you said, I think the Ravens, they're going to be trying to run the ball pretty much the whole entire game, and it's going to be up to the Titans. Are they going to be able to hold the Ravens?
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to be able to at all. I think that the Titans. What's up?
I agree. I think that the one thing about the Titans is like you see how great their offense is, and I think of them as a good defensive team, but they give up points on defense too. So I mean, I think it's going to be a high scoring game, believe it or not. But I think that Tennessee's ultimately going to pull out with this game. I mean, Derrick Henry, if you don't have this guy, you're not making the playoffs. I mean, he makes this offense work. But the good thing about a run game is it opens up the pass game. And this is just basic football knowledge. If you can run the football, they're going to have to commit to it at some point, because if you're going to let Derrick Henry, a guy who's a beast, I mean, he's probably one of the best backs in the league, if not the best. I mean, he can just run through a team. So if you're going to have to eventually stop him, and most teams know they can't. So you're going to have to get ready for that passing game, because this is what the Titans do. The play action comes out once Derrick Henry starts rolling, and then it's what are they going to do? They're going to run, they're going to throw, who knows? Now, like I said, Baltimore's defense, they've been suspect to me. I'm not choosing to pick Baltimore for the reason of their defense. I think that their defense has been lackluster compared to last year. And if I had to pick a team, I'm easily picking the Titans. Because of the Ravens defense. And I just don't think it's there. I think the Ravens are going to score some points, but I have too much faith in the Titans, especially with the year. Like, they were 9-7 last year and they snuck into the playoffs, and then they did that and almost went to the Super Bowl. So
and then they just blew out the Ravens. I mean, Derrick Henry just ran all over them.
And now they're like an 11-5 team, not 9-7 anymore. So they're actually worthy of playoff contention. And now they have home field advantage. I think they're going to run it back. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to put up points, and I think they're going to just outperform Baltimore defensively. That's all I can say.
I agree. And I'm like the Ravens schedule. I mean, they ended off the year yesterday in Cincinnati, just a blowout win. They played the Giants. Okay, the Giants have a decent defense, but if you're a playoff team and if you think that you're going to be able to go to the Super Bowl, you're rolling over the Giants. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And then they had the Jaguars. So this team, their last 3 games have been, pretty easy. I mean, not too much competition. They pretty much dominated all 3 of those teams, which is a good sign. The offense is definitely clicking. But what I want to talk about here is, if this team is the real deal, I mean, the Browns, the Ravens may have snuck away with a nice 5-point win there. Okay, Lamar was running all over him, threw the ball well, but is this defense going to be able to hold up against playoff teams? Because I don't, like you said, I don't feel like this defense, I don't believe in them to be able to lock up teams like the Titans and the Browns and not give up points. They gave up 42 to the Browns, 30 to the Titans at the beginning of the year, 34 to the Chiefs. So this is not a team that has performed well against relatively good teams. They did beat the Colts 24-10. So their defense played well there against a playoff team. and only gave up 19 to the Steelers. But I am not sold that this defense is going to be able to get Ryan Tannehill in the offense off the field. I think that if the Ravens are going to win this game, they're going to have to make sure that Ryan Tannehill stays off the field. And I think they could easily control the clock with the run game. I love what they're doing with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And of course, you've got Lamar, who's their running back one. So I love what they're doing there. But I do think that the Titans have a pretty good linebacking core and a decent defensive line. So, it's going to come down to, I think, that offensive matchup of the Ravens and the defensive matchup of the Titans, who's going to perform better, because I know that the Titans are going to be putting up points. I think this is going to be a high scoring game, but I think that the Titans definitely easily take this one just because their offense is too overpowered. And I don't think that the Ravens are going to have it in them on defense. They look a little bit washed up, but we'll see. It should be an interesting game. It was a pretty fun game to watch last season. Titans won 28-12. So I'm going to go with a higher scoring game than that. Let's see if Lamar Jackson can get the upset here in Tennessee. All right. So next game that we've got is Sunday at 4:40 p.m. This one's going to be in New Orleans. The Bears coming to New Orleans. Drew Brees is going to be taking on Mitchell Trubisky. Something that I love out of the Bears, they have found their rhythm when it comes to running the ball. David Montgomery really didn't have a great season last year in his rookie year. And this season, he's been excellent. It was a little bit of a slow start, but he's turned it up. And if you've had him in fantasy, you know that he's been grounded and pounding. That's what these Bears have been doing, taking the pressure off of Allen Robinson. They've added Darnell Mooney. Who's that other receiver? Anthony Miller. So they've been getting them involved. And, obviously they've got Khalil Mack on that defensive side of things with Trevathan. So, pretty strong defense as well. But they go to New Orleans here, and it's going to be, I think, in Drew Brees' hands. Is he going to be able to make plays on the offensive side of the ball? He's coming back from an injury. Michael Thomas, I'm assuming, is probably not going to play. I don't even know what his situation is. Kamara on the COVID list. I'm assuming he'll probably be back, but the Saints team has dealt with injuries. They rolled past Carolina yesterday, a divisional game. Carolina, not too much of a threat as we've seen this season. I think the Bears are a better team, and I think Trubisky and that offense is playing much better than people expected. I think this game will be closer than people expect. But Copell, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is a great matchup. The Bears get lucky. They sneak into the playoffs. They lost to Green Bay this week. They still make it. Arizona, they don't make it. So I think that Chicago and Matt Nagy, so that he's coached his team to be pretty decent, in my opinion. Teams that go through quarterback changes throughout the year, they never really can perform well. And to be fair, it's hard to manage when you have different quarterbacks coming in and playing different ways. So, Nick Foles came in a couple of games, he gets hurt. Now Mitch Trubisky, to be honest, has shown that he can do some damage. Listen, they're not in the playoffs with like a terrible record. They have a decent enough record to where they made it. So, Mitch Trubisky has shown at the second half of the season where he's came in and played that, listen, I'm going to make sure that I'm no scrub, and I'm going to show you guys what I can do. And yes, David Montgomery, he's really taken this offense by charge. He's just been rushing left and right over teams. He's becoming a top back, in my opinion. I think he's great. He's shifty. He's physical. So I think that Allen, and listen, let me talk about Allen Robinson for a minute. He's a number one receiver on any team. He's a beast. Give him the ball and throw him the ball and he can make a play. I think that this guy, he's going to do some damage on the Saints defense. So I will say this. I think the Bears are an underrated team right here because of the way Trubisky's been playing. This team's been rolling a little bit. Like, did anyone really think that they're going to lose or that they were going to beat Green Bay this past week? I doubt it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that Green Bay was going to win that game. So here's my point. I think that this is an underrated matchup. Let me talk about the Saints. Like you said, Kamara on the COVID list with Latavius Murray and those boys like on the running back side. So hopefully with COVID protocols, they should be back for this game. Michael Thomas, I mean, where has he been? I mean, he's been hurt, whatever you want to call it. They don't have him. But listen, Emmanuel Sanders is no scrub. Jared Cook's shown that he's a great tight end. They use this 2-quarterback package with Taysom Hill and Drew Brees, which I think is spectacular. Sean Payton's a really great football coach. I think we know that. So we'll definitely see some of that Taysom Hill and, Drew Brees, like both in the field at the same time, or they'll throw in Taysom Hill a couple times in certain plays. So I think that even though Michael Thomas isn't there, they should get Kamara back. I think that they should still be fine on offense. The Bears defense to me has been good, but not the normal Chicago defense that we have seen. They lost a couple of pieces, but not only that, they're good. They're a good defense, but compared to these other teams, they're not at the highest level of defense that they usually have been. Khalil Mack's a beast, we know that. But I just think the Saints are going to overpower them offensively. Now let me talk about the defensive side of the ball for the Saints. They made that trade with San Francisco. They get Quan Alexander on the linebacker. He's out for the year. So he's a good player, by the way. Let's not forget. So they lose him on defense. Marshawn Lattimore, he's a great cornerback. Marcus Williams at safety. They got a lot of guys on this defense that can play. And I think Mitchell Trubisky, he's going to have to make some plays. And you're going to start with the run game, that defensive line. You got Cameron Jordan. You got a bunch of guys on the defensive line. So just – in my opinion, I think the Saints defense, they're missing a big piece in Quan Alexander, but will the Chicago offense really make this a game? And in my opinion, I think they'll make it a game in the first half, and in the second half, I think the Saints are just going to end up winning. I mean, I just don't see Chicago coming into New Orleans and winning this game. I think Mitch Trubisky, I think he's going to show a little bit of, he's going to prove himself a little bit. I think the first half is going to be closer than people think. I think the second half, Drew Brees, they're gonna end up rolling through this team in the second half. In my opinion, I think that this game should be a 2-touchdown game, maybe a 10-point game, maybe a 17-point game. I think the Saints are just I think they're gonna get it in the bag. I think after last year they lost in the playoffs, right, to Minnesota or something like that in the first round.
I think so, yeah.
So they're going to want to come back and win. You know what I mean? Like this team has been talked about being Super Bowl contenders every single year, and they can't make it past like the second round of the playoffs or the third round of the playoffs. So I want to think Drew Brees, he's hurt. I heard things that because of his rib injury that he might retire after this year. I mean, he's 40 something years old. So he wants it. You got to think Drew Brees wants it. I think that this team is going to just outplay Chicago. I think that the Saints, you can bet on, I think they're going to win.
And this is a Saints team that, they haven't had Mike Thomas the whole entire season, blah, 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 whatever. Alvin Kamara has really, I think, carried that offense. This team, I don't think, would be in the position that they are if it wasn't for Kamara doing what he's doing. But this team loves to score points. They put up 52 over the Vikings. And I know that the Vikings really haven't been, what people were expecting them to do. They brought in Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, my favorite running back in the NFL. I think he is just such a great guy to have on your team. But this Saints team, they will be in dogfights. They were in a dogfight in Philly that they ended up losing by 3 points. They lost at home to the Chiefs just a few weeks ago by 3. They beat out the Falcons by 5. So this is a team that will score points, but they have taken some pretty bad beats. They lost to the Buccaneers. They're 0-2 this season against them. They lost 34-23 in that first game that they played, and then they just got smoked 38 to. Or I'm sorry, they are 2-0 against the Buccaneers. Excuse me. So. They beat the Buccaneers 34-23, and then they smoked them 38-3 on Sunday Night Football, I believe it was.
Yep.
So this is a team, that can move the ball well, and if they got to score, they will score. They only lost to the Packers by 7. Aaron Rodgers, he's having that type of year, 48 touchdown passes. So this team, it's been a close game, and pretty much every single one of their games this year. And I think that this is a very strong offense. And, the Bears better hope that they're not all healthy, or else I don't think this game is going to be close, like you said, once it comes down to the final 2 minutes. I think the Bears will stick around for the first quarter. The Saints will have a couple of points, probably a little bit of a lead going to this halftime. But I think, it's going to be Drew Brees' time come around that second half. He's going to get Cook involved. He's going to get Sanders involved. And Alvin Kamara, he's just going to run all over this Bears team if hopefully he's healthy on Sunday. And we're going to be seeing the Saints in round 2.
Yep, I agree. Saints. I'm taking the Saints.
I do too. So next matchup here, it is the Sunday night game, the last wild card game. And this could be the most fun game. I mean, I can't wait for this game. And I think it's Sunday night at 8:15 for a reason. We saw them this week. We saw the Browns. We didn't see the Steelers, even though it was a 2-point game. They were resting up, whatever. Browns, they're heading back to Heinz Field for the second time this season. 8:15 on Sunday. Big Ben will be playing. Copell, what do you got here?
So I agree with you. I think this is, with the Titans and Ravens, is one of the best matchups that we have in the wild card. So I'm not big on the Steelers. I never really have been. I actually called I called Washington beating them earlier in the year before the game happened. And
I have proof of that. He did.
So, I mean, but I'm also biased towards Washington. But I'm not I'm not big on the Steelers. I think Roethlisberger, he's been a great quarterback. I think this year, listen, he's getting old. I mean, you can't help it, but he's on the decline. I think it just shows he's not making the deep throws that he could be. He's not rolling out of the pocket like vintage Ben would and, getting the first down, you know what I mean? So he's getting old, but you can't blame him. He's old. Now, I think Mike Tomlin's he's a great coach, and I think he can prove that he's been with his like records and the numbers that him and his team do. He's a great coach. So I think that he's ready, especially after a team that was they went 11-0, and they ended up finishing the season 12-4. So that second half of the year, going 1-4, what's going on? I think Mike Tomlin's going to look for revenge. But let me tell you this: the Steelers have no run game. They have zero run game, and that's going to be
Browns
a problem.
have a defense that is hungry.
The Browns defense is a top defense, in my opinion. They have a great run defense. And if you can't run the ball, that ain't going to work. Okay. Not only that, the passing defense is good too. This Browns defense is something to talk about. It's a top defense. But then on the other side, the Steelers have a great defense too. And they're missing some pieces. And ever since injuries have hit them on the defense side of the ball, they started to lose games. Like look at Bud Dupree. I mean, I think he's been a big piece. Then they can't win. So in my opinion, here's what it's going to come down to. Okay. You got great guys on the offense for this Pittsburgh team receiving wise. You got Juju, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Claypool. So you got guys that Roethlisberger can throw the ball to and feel comfortable. But my point is there ain't no run game. And if there's no run game, this team's going to know they're passing the ball all the time. And if you're Big Ben and you're old and you can't roll out of the pocket and you can't do these things, and they're going to this Browns defense, I'm telling you right now, they're going to make this guy feel uncomfortable in the pocket. He's going to be throwing the ball away left and right. And this is a divisional game. And there's both teams are going to want it. You know what I mean? There's the Rudolph and Garrett incident that apparently they squashed the beef, but just think about the history between these two teams in the same division. So I think that's going to be a big role. And now go ahead in Cleveland on their offensive side of the ball. Baker Mayfield has shown that he can be great. And I think that's good. People kind of like overestimated him because he was a number one pick and like, oh, he should be ready now. Like, listen, these guys got to develop. Like, look at Josh Allen, like we were talking about. Like, it took him 2 years to develop. Baker Mayfield, he's around the same thing. He's looking good now. And think about it. He doesn't have OBJ. He doesn't have Odell to throw the ball to, but he's using guys like Jarvis Landry. We know he's no scrub. He's a good player. He's a star receiver, in my opinion.
He's stepped up too, I think, with Odell being out. Yes. He's been huge.
100%. And you look at guys like Rashad Higgins, like who, he's making Peoples Jones, like guys that he's able to get the
practice
ball
squad guys. Practice squad guys.
Guys that can actually play. But he's giving them the ball and they're catching it. And listen, he's been a great system guy. Another thing is the run game for this team is spectacular. I mean, you got a dual backfield with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, both guys really good in the run game. Kareem Hunt, good in the pass game. Nick Chubb, he can be good in the pass game, but two guys that, listen, Pittsburgh's defense is good, but be ready to stop them. You know what I mean? And I think when you have, with Baker, he doesn't have OBJ, but when you have that run game over the Steelers, they're going to run the ball. Then they're going to start throwing the ball. And let me tell you, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of Cleveland, he has done a fantastic job coming from Minnesota and now being a head coach of a team. He has turned this team around. He has helped Baker Mayfield develop. So in my opinion, this is going to be a really tight game. But I'm going to be honest with you. The way that both teams have been playing, I'm taking Cleveland all day. I don't like the fact that Pittsburgh can't run the ball. I don't like the way that Ben Roethlisberger has been playing. And Mike Tomlin, I know he's a good coach, but look at that game against Cincinnati. Like, they started to come back in the second half, but they couldn't get the deep passes going. And when you don't have a run game, you have to throw the ball. What are you going to do? You can't do anything. So in my opinion, this Cleveland defense is going to step up big time. And I think that Baker Mayfield's going to prove a little something that he can be a dog for this team, and he can actually win some playoff games. And I think that, in my opinion, they're going to upset the Steelers here, and they're going to win this game in Pittsburgh.
I think a dog is a great example of this whole entire team. I mean, they dogged out a win at home against the Steelers. Baker Mayfield, his definition is a dog. They obviously lost to the Jets. That was a tough game. But
No
Baker,
receivers, though.
he's just yeah, true. But he's just one of those guys that you love to watch play. I mean, he's going 110% every single play, no matter what the score is. And I think he is starting to kind of try and get in the rhythm of that number one overall pick. And right now, he's leading them to the playoffs. And I love the aggressiveness of going with the Browns here. And I agree with that 100%. Running the ball is a huge thing, especially in the playoffs. When you're talking about time management, when you're talking about, being up one score under 2 minutes, and the team can stop the clock with timeouts. I mean, are the Steelers going to be able to do this? If Big Ben is even playing well enough to give this team a chance to win, to give them a lead, and he has the receivers. He has Claypool,
Definitely.
Deontay Johnson, Juju, and they've had trouble, especially Johnson, with dropping passes all season long. But, Big Ben, it's up to him. I mean, it's all on him. He just has to make the throw. His receivers are going to make plays for him. But I think that, this Browns defense, they're going to be a force, and they're going to be coming after Big Ben. They're going to be getting pressure on him. He's going to have a really tough time, especially if he doesn't get the ball out. And this Steelers offense, it's kind of been a little bit boring to watch. I mean, when their receivers are catching the ball, it's a little short check down pass. It's not like what we see out of Tennessee, what we see out of Buffalo. With the deep ball, touchdown, stretching out the field, running posts. It's just a little slant play, kind of set a pick or make a move, but they're looking for RPO after the catch. And I don't see the Steelers team, getting up the field and scoring a bunch of points. And I think that Baker Mayfield, he's fired up no matter what roster he has out there. Rather he has, Peoples Jones and the practice squad boys, or he has Jarvis Landry out there making plays every single drive. I think that the Browns are going to win this one. I think their defense is fired up. I think the Browns, they're not the favorite in this game, I don't think. I think they're still the underdog. It is in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field, but I think, this game is going to be as close as it gets, just like we saw this Sunday. But I think the Browns, they're going to want it more. I do love Juju. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL, but I do think Cleveland, they're going to have more dog than the Steelers. And Big Ben, unless he absolutely turns it around and shows us, what a good quarterback looks like, Browns, they're going to win this game by a close margin. But I'm riding with Cleveland here on this Sunday night game, divisional game. It's going to be a very, very big game.
I agree. Cleveland all the way for me. I think it's going to be, like you said, close score. I think could come down to a field goal. I think Cleveland may win by a touchdown, but Big Ben might get the ball one more time to try and tie it, and he might not get it. So I think it's going to be close in that regard. But I can't see the way Pittsburgh's been playing. I mean, are they they haven't played like a playoff team the past 5 games? Like no way, no way. So
Yeah, they've been a different Pittsburgh team. I mean, I thought that this team, if they kept playing the way that they did, they may not have even made the playoffs. I mean, that playoff race in the AFC was extremely close. I mean, we saw Miami getting a big win against Vegas, knocking them out, and they were really looking like they had a bunch of momentum. Obviously, Buffalo's Buffalo. What do? They put up 60 points in week 17. Josh Allen's not even playing the whole game. Buffalo defense gives me a big fantasy championship win. I mean, this team, absolutely insane closing out the season. That knocks out Miami. Colts sneak in. Titans get in. Ravens get in. I mean, this is as close as it gets, I think, this year, especially in the AFC. And it's going to be pretty fun to watch it, unfold. 6 games this weekend. So get your popcorn, folks, because it's going to be one hell of a wildcard weekend.
it is. It's definitely going to be one hell of one. And the teams that we didn't talk about, Green Bay and Kansas City, the teams that have a bye. I mean, enough said about them. They're powerhouses. Yeah. They're going to be good. So I mean, we'll be doing another talk when these games are over, and we'll talk about the next matchups and stuff. But so you have our matchups there. So just to review, I'll review and tell you what I got. So I got Bills over Colts. I have Browns over Steelers, and I got Titans over Ravens. And on the other side of the NFC, I have Saints over Bears. I have Rams over Seahawks, and I have Bucks over Washington football team.
And for me on the AFC, I've got the Bills taking out the Colts. I've got the Bucks. They're going to take over in Washington. And then for the Ravens and Titans, the Titans are going to beat the Ravens. And I think that Seattle will come together. They're going to take out the Rams. I got the Saints over the Bears and the Browns on Sunday Night Football. They're going to take out their rival. There's not a whole lot of rivalries that get, bigger than this, Steelers and Browns. So that's going to be probably one of my top games. But I'll tell you, I'll be watching football all Saturday and all Sunday afternoon throughout the night. Copell, anything else, or are we going to close it out?
That's it. We covered a lot. Obviously, there could be injury reports last second and stuff that could change.
And COVID list. I mean, that's
a crazy year. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, about the podcast, we're starting this. We love sports. We talk about it all the time. We're like, let's do it. So we're going to be hammering a bunch of episodes out. We're actually going to be doing more today. So we're rolling these out, but we want to start off with the playoff matchups because they just got announced yesterday after the Washington game. So we give you guys our predictions. We'll do it for every round of the playoffs. And listen, thanks for tuning in.
More to come to NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever you guys want. And also be sure to check out our YouTubes. Some episodes will probably be on the YouTubes. Definitely trying to grind that. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys stayed the whole time, appreciate it. And we will catch you guys in the next episode. Not sure what it'll be yet. And we're also still working on a name. Let us know if you have any suggestions. And appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. See you in the next one.